Hey, welcome back to episode 25 of the Cellarcast. I have quite a bit to talk about today. There was actually a fair bit of fair bit of news this past week that I have some ruminations about, but I wanna kick it off with a comment review. There's nothing really that I wanna. Ugh, fuck, really? We got the burp out of the way real fast. Bingo card time. Nothing that I really want to mention that doesn't really fit anywhere else, so I'm just going to jump into the comment review. We have one question from last time, comes from Lozy. Amazing episode. If I knew that you were going to bring a guest, I wouldn't have written so much analysis on the past video. Well, now it's your task to play the rest of the, so you can debate something. XD. He was talking about the very long analysis of all the Mega Man games that he wrote that Max and I had not played. It was fine. It's always a good conversation starter. Mega Man is always a great conversation starter. Happy for BlazBlue. We'll talk about that in a minute. But after my journey through Guilty Gear, I think I need another fighting game franchise to revisit and complete because I'm going to end up burning myself listening to people talk, burning myself out listening to people talk with the sound of the electric guitar. Haha. I've been playing Central Fiction recently, and after a few hours, you're like, yeah, the music in BlazBlue is great. And then after a few hours, I'm like, I can only listen to so much electric guitar. I can only listen to so much while I'm just bashing my head against the wall trying to get this combo down. Let me just put on something. I just took a walk. It's raining. It's at night. And it's raining outside. And I was listening to some jazz. Some game jazz, of course. What am I going to listen to? Just regular jazz? No. And that was great. That was a great palate cleanser. If you can, go walk in the rain while listening to jazz. It's a wonderful experience. I'm also sad because of the Biken reveal. I want Jam and the leaks betrayed me. By the way, my name's Gabriel, and I'm not a religious person, but it's good to have the name of an angel and a persona demon. Kind of the same thing in SMT, anyway. When I first discovered your channel, I thought that Taigen Moon was an alias, not a real name. Yeah, I think on the last episode I explained... Did I? Yeah, Taigen Moon is technically Taigen Moon, so my full name is Taigen Moon Irigoyen, and I figured as like a public persona. After I graduated high school, I'm like, well, if I don't go to college, and I'm going to be an artist or something, I kind of have to be like a public figure, right? I have to be a public persona, so I figured right at the start, as soon as I graduated, I rebranded, or I started the the brand of calling myself Taigen Moon in all pretty much all of my projects and stuff, just because Taigen Moon's a little snappier, and it's like it's short and memorable. Also, everyone knows how moon is spelled. Yeah, so I figured, and I added, the channel used to just be called The Cellar, so longer time viewers might remember it just being called The Cellar, and then I added my name at the end, basically just to make it easier to search for. Like, I would tell people about my channel, or they would ask for my channel. Pardon me. They would ask for my channel, and, I would just be like, oh, it's The Cellar, like a wine cellar. And then they would have to scroll super far to find it. And then I figured maybe adding like a very distinctive thing like Taigen Moon at the end would be, make it a little easier to search for. And apparently it does. So that's cool. So that worked. Can't wait for your... Can't wait for your kids with the Lightbringer to be named Bob, Mark, Karen, or Linda. Kat, I know you're listening right now. Text me if I know you're watching this right now. Text me how you feel about being called the Lightbringer. Tell me how you feel about it. Extra point to Max for that imitation of Taigen sounds. Haha. Talking about it, yeah, fucking. I never realized that I make the little sound. Like, it's something I do when I just think. when I think about stuff. So I'm like conscious of the fact that I'm doing it, but it's also like, because it's never at the forefront, it's just something I kind of do subconsciously. I don't know how to describe it. Like, it's never at the forefront of my mind, just something it's like a background process in my brain. So when he did the fucking sound, I was like, oh my god, I do that. Talking about him, and here's the question: what happened to his channel? In his first video, he talks like there were previous videos, I'm assuming, but there aren't. It has few for the number of subscribers he has. Did he delete them or something? Yeah, so we actually talked about this because, not on the podcast, but in private, and I was like, did you have like other videos or something? And because I vaguely, I'm like, hasn't he been around? Like, I feel like he's been around for a lot longer than his videos would suggest that are on his channel right now. And he basically, so his channel, he started off, he went through, I guess, the way he described it was 3 kind of phases of content. And the first was a lot of videos about like mental health and depression and stuff, which is when, like, if his voice sounds deeper now, it's because he was like a little squeaker back then. And then he changed his content. It didn't, like, I don't know, the way he described it, maybe he could correct me, but it sounded like it didn't like really scale very well. Like, you can only talk about mental health for so long. So he started doing these hentai reviews, which got like a lot more views and not a lot of engagement. And they ended up getting him in trouble with the YouTube for breaking TOS. So he had to like delete them, and then so he basically, the reason that his channel is kind of barren is that he did have a ton of videos beforehand. But the first phase, a lot of the mental health videos where he ended up privating for, I think, just personal reasons he mentioned to me. And then the hentai reviews he had to like take down because of TOS, and to get like, I think his channel had a strike or something like that. And that's when he decided to start up his, I think he took a bit of a break, and then he started up his current internet sleuth, of the cyber Chris Hansen deal. So yeah, I was always that confused me too. I was like, didn't he have more? I feel like he's been around for longer than that. His channel would suggest. I hope that answers your question. I might have gotten a few things about the timeline wrong there, but that's basically what happened. Cool. We had no other real questions. Yeah, that episode was really great to do. It was great to have on. I'd love to have more guests. If I have any other people. I don't know what I'm talking about. Oh, I just ate. That's the thing. I just ate. I don't know if you'd call it dinner or breakfast. It's like 4 a.m. I just ate the other, like, 20 minutes ago. So, start up that music, Johnny. Yep, it's the Blizzard block, guys. It's the Blizzard block. So, we've got, and oh boy, is it a block. So, here's our first thing. There's a couple things, and they all kind of like, most of them kind of lead into each other. Sorry, there's a news story on the side. I was looking at the Twitter post that I'm going to be reading off of, and apparently India just won Miss Universe. All right. So I got distracted. Sorry. This one's from Jason Schreier. So the original tweet comes from someone who works at Raven Software. I think Raven Software at Raven. Who, if you don't know, Raven they have a pretty extensive history. They actually started, I don't know what their first few games were, but the first thing that I know them for, at least, is they were the first studio to actually officially license the Doom engine. And after, like, during Doom 2's development, John Romero was kind of like off. He was kind of like half working on Doom 2, and then the other half he basically went to supervise Raven while they were making Heretic, which is like kind of like a fantasy inspired FPS in the Doom engine, which is pretty good. It's fine. I would call it above average. It's not my favorite, but I think Heretic's pretty good. And Raven in general is a pretty great studio. If I just quickly look up their oh god, I can't stop burping. Their history. Oh, Jesus Christ. They did so Heretic, Hexen. They did Quake 4, Star Wars Jedi Knight Academy, or Jedi Knight Jedi Academy, and Jedi Knight, the original. Marvel Ultimate Alliance, just running through some highlights. And basically what you would know them for now is they were bought by Activision, and they went to the Call of Duty mine. So they did Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3, Ghosts. Man, they did some fucking bad ones. Modern Warfare 3, original Black Ops, World War II, Cold War, and currently working on Warzone. Now that's the important one, because someone who, I don't know, they're called at AOB, I'm not sure. Oh yeah, no, the community manager at Raven basically declared or announced so he says, I am gutted right now. My friends in QA at Raven were promised for months that Activision was working towards a pay restructure to increase their wages. Keep that in mind for this next sentence. Today, one by one, valuable members of the team were called into meetings and told they were being let go. These people were asked to relocate to Madison, Wisconsin to work here. Fuck, you gotta move to Wisconsin? Jesus Christ. Now they're out of a job on January 28th. Raven is Wisconsin-based. Our QA team does incredible work, but this will not only increase their workload, but crush morale. If it isn't clear, this is bullshit. It's unfair to these people to string them along, promising something better, and then let them go. I am infuriated right now, and he has every right to be. So Schreier reports on this. Abruptly, Activision's Raven Software, which runs Call of Duty Warzone, abruptly laid off a number of QA testers today. Others don't know if they're keeping their jobs. This is really painful, one just told me. Warzone generated $1.93 billion last year, according to a SuperData estimate. Really, this sucks. So Activision, Blizzard and Activision, this is more on the Activision as a whole side. They have a terrible track record with respecting QA testers. QA is such an important and undervalued role in game development. I think I've mentioned this before, but it really bears repeating. When a game comes out and it's like fucked up, people have this tendency sometimes to, maybe this was more prevalent before in previous years, but there was this tendency at least to blame the QA testers, blame the quality assurance, and that is not true. If anything, it's not fair, because if anything, the QA testers are the consumer, right? The QA testers it's often companies that are contracted to work in QA. They're not affiliated with the developer or the publisher. Oftentimes, some of them have internal QA. And like, I've listened to, like, I'm a big fan of, like, you know, the Super Best Friends, and, you know, now like Mad McMuscles and Castle Super Beast and all the rest of those. And those guys, at least like Wooly, he worked in QA for a good many years. And his experiences working in QA, just the way he talks about it, and just the whole impression I get from the work and how he's spoken about it, the people in QA are not lazy. QA is a very tedious job. I had an English teacher, my freshman English teacher. Yeah, I'm just remembering this. He worked QA at Sega at some point in time, like in the 90s or something. Maybe not the 90s. I don't know how young he was. Or maybe he was like in college, I think. And the way he described it, he was like, yeah, you think it's really fun because, you're just playing video games all day, and it's not fun. It's literally just replaying one room of a game over and over and over again for sometimes hours, trying to just see if you can break anything. And they write down everything. Every bug that if you've seen a bug in your game, it has almost definitely been written down and documented by a QA tester. And ultimately, it's the job of the developers to fix that bug, to fix those things. And it's the job of the managers at the studio to create an environment where those bugs can be fixed, where it really comes down to management. QA is they're the messenger, really. They're so important because they're the ones who are telling the devs. The devs are just, grinding away, feverishly trying to make the rest of the game, and the QA testers are basically cleaning up the mess that they're leaving behind. Or they're telling them which parts are messy. Might be a better analogy. QA is so valuable. And every fixed bug is generally one that's been caught by QA, right? And the reason, like, I've heard from WoW players that, like, World of Warcraft is so just, like, unpolished and buggy and, like, fucked up. And the reason is that, like, Blizzard just keeps laying off QA testers. They just keep letting them go and pushing stuff to basically be tested on a beta server by the players. And that kind of like a big hiring or firing decision might come from Blizzard, but it could also just as well come from Activision, or it could be, in cooperation between those rungs on the hierarchy ladder. And this is just, it's a crying shame. It is so unfair, and it's bullshit. Like AOB here says, it's total bullshit. For a game that makes $1.93 billion in a year, at Activision, one of the highest grossing, one of the biggest players in the biggest, literally the biggest entertainment industry on the planet, and you can't pay for QA testers? Come the fuck on. There's no reason to do this. So this leads directly into the next story. So the Warzone development team had a walkout because of this layoff. So this one comes from Kotaku, from Ethan Gak? I don't know. Let's see the original story. There's a bit of an update. Quality assurance testers and other developers at Raven Software are walking out on the job today. So not everyone on the QA staff got laid off. It should be important to note. Only, I don't know how many of them, but too many. There's no fucking reason they had to be laid off in the first place. Also, oh my god, I completely forgot about it. The fact that they were told that they were restructuring for higher pay and then got laid off is such a scum move. It's such a scummy move. Some of these people moved to Wisconsin, no less, to work there in QA of like a tedious job, like a grindy job. And you just laid them off individually. And according to, at least at the time the tweet was written, on the 3rd, they didn't know who was going to be laid off and who wasn't. So some people, the meetings were all individual. Those so quote, okay, so the group told Kotaku in a statement it has only one demand: give all QA testers, including those just laid off, full-time positions. So they weren't even being paid full-time. Quote, those participating in this demonstration do so with the continued success of the studio at the forefront of their mind. The Raven QA department is essential to the day-to-day functioning of the studio as a whole. Terminating the contracts of high-performing testers in a time of consistent work and profit puts the health of the studio at risk. This is how you see quality start to slip. I'd be very curious to see when games start going downhill, if you can correlate that to laying off development members like this, you know? Or developers like this. I would consider QA to be an important part of the development process, part of the team. I think that they deserve that. Like, you start laying off QA, more bugs get through, the game starts coming out buggier, and all of the it's this cycle, it's this process that it's this very like, how would I describe it? It's this very like hyper-capitalist process that happens where everything starts swelling to the top. Everything starts swelling to the top. Like, take Bobby Kotick, for example, who will kill you and is best friends with Jeffrey Epstein. Bobby Kotick lays off. Bobby Kotick makes so much money. God damn, he makes a lot of money. And then he decides to lay off, 800 people and then give him himself a $32 million bonus. So everything below him, you start looking at it as like a hierarchy. Everything below him starts to get squeezed, and all the money that is distributed throughout starts to get squeezed towards the top. And it starts swelling at the top, and everything below it just languishes for as long as you can, and then you get out. And then you get out because you don't care that much about where you are. Very cynical today. Let's see, which was the first update that they published? So the first update was Activision Publishing is growing its overall investment in its development and operations resources. This is a spokesperson told Kotaku in an email. We are converting approximately 500 temporary workers to full-time employees in the coming months. Unfortunately, as part of this change, we also have notified 20 temporary workers across studios that their contracts would not be extended. That doesn't make... I don't know how that makes any sense. So you're going to be converting temporary workers to full-time employees. However, to do that, as part of this change, in your own words, you need to lay off temporary employees. Technically, they're not being fired. Their contracts are just not being extended. So they're effectively being fired, but there's a different name for it. As part of the first wave of meetings, 30% of Raven's QA staff saw their contracts terminated, while others await news of their fate as they head into the holiday season. Come on. These personnel cuts come after 5 weeks of overtime and before an anticipated end-of-year crunch, protesting Raven staff wrote. The group said that every QA developer affected was in good standing with the company and had been told back when standard promotions and raises were not given out last March that, quote, positive departmental changes were coming in the future. So all these people are in good standing. They're getting their work done. They haven't had any kind of, broken any kind of company policies that might get them fired or anything like that. No one's in trouble. Everyone's just done their job correctly. And then they didn't get raises. And they said, oh, well, that's part of this plan that we've got. The plan is that we're going to lay you off. Fuck off. So it also said the laid off staff were central to the ongoing development and maintenance of Warzone, which generates millions of revenue every day and is currently set for a big update coming soon. Some of those affected had even recently relocated to Wisconsin without financial assistance in preparation for the coming return to the office following COVID-19 shutdowns. Holy cannoli. So leadership have repeatedly said that these are not layoffs, but a termination of contract. Alongside the walkout, Treyarch, which leads development on Call of Duty Black Ops, announced that all of its contract workers would be converted to full-time. Okay. All of its contract workers. That's nice. Okay. So they released their full statement, which was just kind of like, mostly like restating in one whole thing what I just said. There was an update. Now in its second day, Activision Blizzard workers involved in the Raven walkout say QA from other studios have joined in from offices in Texas, Minnesota, and California, including at Blizzard's Irvine campus. These workers are standing in solidarity with the statement Raven QA put forward yesterday, the Activision Blizzard employee group Better APK wrote. Developers from the Overwatch and Call of Duty studios and others are currently using #WeAreRaven to voice their support for the protest. God, it's so sad. Raven was a good-ass studio. They were solid to like well above average. They made some good ones. And then Activision bought them and they said, you're just going to work on Call of Duty. And then they do this to them. What a terrible company. Activision. What a terrible. Bobby Kotick sucks. The flavor right now is that we're using is tea. It's really good. It's like a little sweet. Just a little sweet. Next story. So, Kotaku, also from Ethan Gatch. I don't know how his name is pronounced. Activision Blizzard devs announced strike fund to support work stoppage. So basically, they're just going on strike, and they've opened a strike fund. That's it. So they have a GoFundMe. I might consider. If I remember, I'll try to link the GoFundMe in the comments or in the description. It's currently raised over $28,000 in just a few hours. This is back on Thursday. Oh fuck! I did it again. There it is. Now I noticed when I do it. Yeah, it's basically it. It's following this the next day. Activision exec from Ian Walker, Kotaku. Activision exec to organizing workers. Oh, please don't unionize. Please. That's literally the title. I'm not even joking. So essentially, what happened here was that the chief administrative officer at ActiBliz, Brian Bulatow, who was from the Donald Trump's cabinet, basically put out this statement saying, like, well, if you guys want to, we cannot stop you from unionizing because that's the law. We can't stop you from unionizing. But think about the consequences. So, there was a communication. So, in his statement, he just says, like, there was a communication supported by the Communications Workers of America that asked employees to sign and submit union authorization cards. So, the CWA is the Communications Workers of America that Blizzard would be unionizing with, or under, whatever. So, as you make this decision for your future, we ask only that you take time to consider the consequences of your signature on the binding legal document presented to you by CWA. Once you sign that document, you will have signed over to CWA the exclusive right to represent you for the purposes of collective bargaining. Basically, like, are you sure you want these other people to represent you instead of yourself? What's gonna happen? Achieving our workplace culture aspirations will best occur through active, transparent dialogue between leaders and employees that we can act upon quickly. That is the better path than simply signing an electronic form offered to you by CWA or awaiting the outcome of a legally mandated and regulated bargaining process sometime in the future. Let's see, what was another thing he said? We introduced a zero-tolerance harassment policy and waived required arbitration of sexual harassment and discrimination claims. I know that... So he's just saying, I know that we had policies to specifically to cover up... to cover up sexual harassment, like arbitration, but we got rid of those after you guys... after 4 federal agencies sued us. 3 federal agencies sued us, sorry. We have more to do, and we believe that direct dialogue between management and employees is essential to the success of Activision Blizzard. Oh, fuck off. Oh, you fucker. What else? Yeah, it's just this tactic. The tactic, it's very desperate, and I don't think it's gonna work. Let's just work this out with each other. Let's just work this out privately, where no one else can see what we do, and we can settle quietly, and no one will have to know. Is it working? Okay, that was weird. As soon as did I say? I don't know if I lost anything that I said. No, I don't think I did. Okay, I just tabbed back to like, Dark Audacity, and it said that it just randomly stopped recording because, I don't know, it said something was competing for processing power. I don't know how. That was weird. Pardon me. Alright then. I don't think I really lost anything. So yeah, it's just this shitty... fuck them. Fuck those guys. So now, all of this whole talk, I've been talking for, it feels like last 15 minutes about all this stuff. This has all been leading up to this story, okay? This has all been leading up to this story. And it doesn't have anything to do, really, with, you know, all these stories kind of like led one into the other. This one it does not relate to them, to the previous ones. And I'm going to have to take a drink of my brain juice before I go on, because this is a doozy. So, I'm just going to read the headline. This one comes from The Gamer, from Sean Murray. Activision Blizzard employee claims she had breast milk stolen at work. So, I'm going to read that again. Activision Blizzard employee claims she had breast milk stolen at work. Stolen. So there's a there's like a bar, and I don't know like if this raises or lowers the bar, but it moves it, right? For like it's Blizzard keeps finding new ways to shock and disappoint me on a very like human level. So let me get into this real quick. I read this and like I had to go like sit down for a second and just kind of reflect. I heard like Guts theme playing. Boom 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 boom. Boom 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 boom. The stories coming from Activision Blizzard workers have been truly repellent, but this latest story, shared by former Blizzard producer Stephanie Krustic, might just top them all. According to Krustic, who worked at Blizzard Entertainment between 2006 and 2020, she had several bags of breast milk stolen while she was working in the building. So this came in kind of a larger tweet, a thread about it was like a thread. It was also like a text document that was just shown as one big image about like the quality of, you know, life for pregnant women at Blizzard. So now, mind you, because this is America, and if you're pregnant, you can't just take maternity leave. You've got to fucking work. You got to slave away. So women have to breastfeed at work, and that's perfectly fine. Of course, it's just part of the job, not of working at Blizzard. Although, just, you know, being a mother, being a human being. So if you recall, back when the original lawsuit happened, Blizzard used to just not have breastfeeding rooms. They had meeting rooms, and the meeting rooms would sometimes just be interrupted by like women would be feeding in there or pumping in there, and then some guys would come in and just force them out because they needed to have a meeting. And there were no locks on them, which meant that there was just such a gross story about there was a woman breastfeeding, and some fucking guy just opened the door and just like stared at her breastfeeding until she had to like scream at him to stop. Like what? Like what the fuck? So they eventually got specific feeding rooms or pumping rooms, and there were a few things that weren't too great about these rooms. So first of all, as this tweet describes, the chairs would rock backward and could not be locked in position to properly position oneself to pump. Many mothers were sitting on the floor to pump. Now, I've never just like watched women breastfeed, because I'm not an Activision Blizzard. I don't work at Activision Blizzard, so I don't just stare at women breastfeeding. So I'm not exactly sure of like the mechanics or the positions you got to do to get it done. But apparently the chairs were really unaccommodating to make it like comfortable, and they just had to sit on the fucking floor. So the tables were made of wood. The wood was porous and textured. You know this kind of wood. It's like that like cheap, it's practically plastic. That super cheap wood table that has that gross kind of texture on it. So that's what these were made of, and that's porous, which means that when you spill something on there, it just kind of stays in there. It just kind of stays there. And now, you know, as part of breastfeeding, sometimes stuff just spills. That's just a reality. And you just clean it up, right? You just clean it up. Should be fine. But no. Because they were porous, the milk, you can never fully clean the milk out, which means that breast milk is just, the word they use here is built up and caked on the table, discoloring it and leaving trapped milk. Ugh. Fucking gross. Like, oh my god. That's so... There's nothing just gross about breastfeeding, right? Just a natural thing. But this is not how it's supposed to go. This is not how it's supposed to go. The number 3, the outlet situation was a fire hazard. There are only 2 plugs per room, one plug being used by a lamp with a USB jack for phones and another outlet for the pump. No outlet for laptops or extra table space to place a laptop for pumping moms who wanted to work or watch a show while pumping. So they had to use extension cords. So they just had to stuff extension cords in there, which creates a fire hazard. Number 4, insufficient storage space. There were no locked cubbies for moms to keep their pumps safe. Many had to lug them across campus multiple times a day as they didn't want to leave them behind. At the time, women were uncomfortable using B13s. I'm not sure, actually, milk pump. I'm actually, like, I just want to get, like, a visual on, like, the size of these. Yeah, it's like a decent, like, piece of machinery. Or, you know. It just seems, at the very least, I'm sure some people would be embarrassed by it, but at the very least, it's like cumbersome, right? Like you basically have to bring a bag. If you just look up a breast milk pump, you have to bring like a whole bag just for these, just to carry this around, because there's no place to store it. What is a B13? I'm not sure what a B13 is. So refrigerators, number 5. Refrigerators had padlocks that were not consistently locked or could be accessed by other employees. Employees were using the fridges to store their beer in. Again, so unprofessional, in my opinion. Why is alcohol at the office at all? But the reason there were locks on them, so here's the big hit. Here's the knockout punch. The reason there were locks on them in the first place is that nursing people's breast milk would be stolen. Oh my god. Oh my god. Like, okay. Like, oh, stop. I'm just taking it in. So, this whole, yeah, it's so, there's a comment here, so disrespectful and horrifying that it should be listed as a war crime. It's pretty good. That's a good summation. So, like, you have to imagine, right? Just if there's any doubt in your mind about what was going on, think about, okay, we don't live in Canada. We don't bag our milk here in the US, okay? So if you see a bag of milk, it's going to be a bag, and it probably even has, like, symbols on it, like pacifier things or whatever. Something to, like, really clearly show that it's, like, for babies, right? And especially if you fucking know that someone in the office is breastfeeding and pumping. You should know this, right? Some people make the claim that, like, oh, they were just throwing them out because they thought it was bad or something. No reason. First of all, why are you doing that? It's in a bag. It's sealed. It's not contaminating anything else. And it's obviously like a really, you can't confuse this with any kind of regular milk. What milk would come in like a bag like that, right? Nothing. Which means that if you're taking it, you have to be taking it. I don't even want to suggest, I don't even want to go there. I just don't even want to talk about it, right? It's a fetish thing. It's a fetish thing. I'm going to say it. It's a weird fetish thing. If you're into lactating, whatever. You can be into weird stuff, okay? I don't mind. I don't mind it. Really. There's a big difference between being into like lactation and literally stealing food from a baby. Like sometimes it happens where a baby, a newborn, doesn't take immediately or take at all to breastfeeding, right? Like to direct breastfeeding. And it's just straight up, this is like a medical fact, it's always better for a baby to have natural breast milk as opposed to formula. It's always superior to have natural milk. So it's really important that mothers be able to pump their own milk so that their babies can eat. Eat! This is beyond, there's like taking candy from a baby, and then there's taking food from a baby. It's so heinous. It's so, babies are just innocent creatures. Babies are literally the symbol of innocence. All they need is just to eat. They just need some food. They just need some milk, some sustenance. And you're literally stealing it from them. What the fuck is wrong with you? Just, it's so depraved. It's so depraved and awful. It's so terrible. I'm laughing because it's ridiculous, but it's really awful. And there's a comment under this tweet. It's like there's something I saw it like a woman who was a mother, and completely she said she was completely infuriated by that. Jesus Christ. It's so it's so bad. And I can't. It's so I'm sorry, but like I don't have much to say, but it's just stunning. It's the stone cold stunner to my senses. To not only be such a weirdo, such a fucking bad dude, that you would sexually harass women or something, but that you would steal their milk. What the fuck? It's a new low. It's really a new low. And here's the problem, is that we don't know who did it. We don't know who did it and who didn't do it, right? That lady who talked about this, she worked there from like 2006 to 2020. That's a long-ass time. That's a really long time. Any Blizzard employee, from now on, every Blizzard employee you see, they could be the breast milk thief. It could have been them. You don't know. Who stole the breast milk? But who stole the breast milk, Bobby? Fuck. Oh, dear Lord. God, it's so bad. I don't... there's not even a conclusion to make. It's just like another punch. It's like we're already down and they're just stomping on us. It's using Terumi's 22C. It's a little BlazBlue reference for all you BlazBluers out there. Fuck, I just want to move on. Man, this is why we need a union. I say we like I'm in the games industry. They need a union. We're going union like they say. We'll buy the congregation, then one day you'll find us sitting in your chair with big ideas of stocks and shares. It's Beachside Property by Modest Mouse. Had to cleanse my brain a little bit. Next story. Peter Molyneux's next game is a blockchain business sim featuring NFTs because the future sucks. Man, Stephen Molyneux, Peter Molyneux, Stephen Molyneux, isn't he a political guy? Peter Molyneux fucking sucks. This guy sucks. This one comes to us from, man, Kotaku's really pumping them out today. Hopefully their articles don't get stolen out of the fridge. Fuck me. Zach Zweisen from Kotaku. Kotako. Have you been wondering what old Peter Molyneux's been up to lately? Well, in a move that very few will find surprising, the infamous designer is jumping into the world of blockchain gaming and NFT bullshit. His next game, Legacy, is built entirely around the technology and crypto gaming. So this is the new 22 Cans game. So this game is called Legacy. So in Legacy, players will create digital products and buildings from thousands of available parts. These plans are then manufactured by an army of workers. That's a quote, apparently. And after that, players are free to trade anything and everything with other players around the world to dominate the open market. So that's an interesting concept. It's like a multiplayer, almost like an MMO business sim. It's kind of interesting, actually. Apparently, there will be in-game events and competitions that will, maybe one day, reward players with money and other prizes. But before you begin playing, quote-unquote, this game, quote-unquote, oh fuck, you'll need to buy a land NFT before you can start your own in-game blockchain business. And all of this will be powered by a new cryptocurrency, Legacy Coin, which exists on the Ethereum blockchain. I hate this. Isn't this literally just like that scam, Earth 2? Oh my god. Is how far we've fallen from Fable to ripping off Earth 2. Jesus, go look up Earth 2. Peter Molyneux is... I feel like I've been harsh on him, and I don't think I've been harsh enough. Peter Molyneux is a fucking scam artist, and you should not give him any of your money. Anything he's involved, don't trust a word he says. He can't control himself. He's negligent. He doesn't care about... He's too incompetent, too wildly incompetent to treat the consumer with any kind of respect. And you should not trust anything that he puts his name on. Do not give anything he puts his name on money. Did I phrase that right? Anything he puts his name on, do not give it any money. Because it's not a seal of approval. All right? He literally started... Do you know how Peter Molyneux started in the games industry? So I think he tried to get into gaming in the 90s, I think, or 80, whenever he started. And he failed, right? He failed. So he decides to go and start a new business, not related to tech or games at all. He decides to make a business called, what was it called? Oh, man. It was like a Greek god or something? Fucking, let me type right. Peter Molyneux. Taurus. And Taurus was Taurus was a company that exported baked beans to Saudi Arabia. I'm not kidding. That's what he did. A company that exported baked beans to the Middle East. So then there was so Commodore International, the computer company, mistook his company, Taurus, for another Taurus spelled slightly differently. And the Taurus they were looking for was a company that made networking software. And they go to Molyneux and they said, hey, you're from Taurus, right? And he said, yep. And they said, do you want to make some networking software for us? We'll give you all these free computers. And he would just started salivating. And he was like, yeah, I can do that for you guys. And then then he made the software, and then they found out only later that he had basically lied to them. But it was an okay piece of software, and it did what they needed, so they were kind of fine with it. He literally got his start in the industry by lying to people. Amazing. Amazing. Molyneux sucks. I want to talk about the Game Awards. So the Game Awards happened. I did a live stream of it. That was pretty fun, actually. I really enjoyed riffing and talking to people in the chat. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I'd like to do, maybe if there's another similar kind of event in the future, I'd like to take a look at it. Do like a streaming event. I don't know what it would be. Interesting thing about the Game Awards, it is barely an award show. The Game Awards is basically a glorified E3. So the Game Awards started off as the Spike TV Video Game Awards, the VGAs. That ran from like 2003 to 2013. And that was Jeff Keighley's baby. He always wanted to have an industry award show. And the VGAs were very, I describe it as it's like a guy showing up to a formal event with like a clip-on tie. It was very much like hey, we've got one too, guys. We've got an award show too. We're a respectable medium. You can we're just like the Oscars. But then, on the other hand, because it was on Spike TV, and it had a ton of very, very, let's say, gamer sponsorships. It would be like Best Indie Game, powered by Mountain Dew, powered by Doritos. Jeff Keighley used to be known as the Dorito Pope because of how hard he had to shill it. Crazy how he's outgrown that. I totally forgot that he was called the Dorito Pope at one point. And then in 2013, that was the last one, and then he broke off and made his own Game Awards, which is the current incarnation of it. And he's always wanted to have an industry award show and be respectable and all that, but really he wanted the prestige. Pardon me. He wants the prestige, but he wants the prestige of having an award show, but he also wants the industry prestige of having a show where people announce a bunch of huge games. So I think there's just this. The show definitely, as an award show, it suffers from the just sheer amount of trailers. There were legitimately 10-minute spans with no awards and just trailers. And eventually you just start to get exhausted. People, they accept their award and they're not even off the stage before the world premiere shows up on the screen. You're like, Jesus, another one? There were a few things that interested me. And actually, literally, the two things that I wrote down happened in the pre-show. So first of all, the pre-show was super weird because it was just the regular show, but Jeff Keighley wasn't there. And I don't know why. It was another lady doing, presenting it. And they just started handing out awards, like Best Indie got handed out there. Like, okay, really? And then they showed a bunch of trailers. And there's only a few things I cared about. Number 1, Persona 4 Arena Ultimax is on Steam. Or it's coming to Steam. That's really cool. You can pre-purchase it now, and it's a cool game. And don't know if it's going to have rollback in it, but just being on Steam is helpful, because that game has been locked away on, like, 7th gen hardware for forever. The other thing I got hyped for was there was a trailer for a new KOF 15 character, Cronin. And so the reason that I got hyped about Cronin, you can go and see my reaction to it. I don't know if I got a chance to really explain it on stream. So if you go look at Cronin, Cronin is obviously inspired by, and we don't know the deal with his lore or anything yet, but very obviously he's an homage to a character, at least an homage. We don't know if it's the same guy, to a character called K9999. So in King of Fighters, there's this like shadowy science organization called Nest. And there's a bunch of characters throughout the series who are like genetically modified, who have like special powers because of like experimentation. Like Nest implants like cells into them, and they make clones of other characters and all that. And so there's a bunch of different Nest's characters, and they were kind of like, as the series was progressing, they were introducing like more and more of them and really like building up the power of this organization. And in KOF 2001, I believe, they introduced a guy called K9999, or aka K49, which just makes it easier to say. So K49 is a blatantly obvious homage to Akira, the movie. The movie Akira, specifically the character Tetsuo. So his whole deal is his arm can like morph and shape shift, and it has all these like mechanical elements that like kind of poke out of it. I'm trying to describe it. He'll have a move where like his arm turns into a shotgun and he blasts you with the shotgun, and he'll have or it sharpens into a spike, like a metally spike, and it's like flesh colored, and then it sharpens into like a metal color. It turns into metal when it becomes the spike. And then he just straight up has like a super where he throws his arm forward and it just like expands and just, it's the scene, like the famous scene from Akira where Tetsuo, like his arm becomes that like weird goop and he just like shoots it out, and it's just like this big, I don't know what you call it, like a trunk of like flesh and metal. K49 has literally that exact same move, and he has lots of voice lines, and the names of moves are like direct references to lines from the movie. And now no one knows exactly what happened, but after 2001, K49 just kind of disappeared. He just kind of went away. And no one knows exactly why. The theory is that someone from either a production, like the producers of Akira, or someone involved, approached SNK with legal threats. This copyright law is very weird in Japan because there basically is no copyright law. But it could have been that. It could have been they were just scared of it. I think they've publicly said that, like, no, nothing ever happened. But, you know, would you want to admit it? Because it's very weird because he's basically been memory holed right? He's been scrubbed from all the records. There was like a KOF commemorative art book or something that released, and they had like all the Nests members, and then K49 is just blacked out. Where is he? Who knows? And so King of Fighters 2002 comes out, and I actually don't know if it was in 2002 or 2002 KOF 2002 roster. But there was I'm trying to, was Nameless in here? So KOF 2002 was kind of like man, this is a great cover. The original KOF 02 cover. So good. Nope, he's not here. Oh, is he? Oh, nope, he's not. Okay. K49 is just conveniently missing from 2002. Despite the fact that 2002 is kind of like it's like an all-stars game. So, it brought back a bunch of characters, and it just, it was basically, so here's the thing is, SNK was kind of in the middle of like going out of business, going bankrupt during the early 2000s. So, KOF 2002 was kind of like, hey, let's just reuse a bunch of sprites. And then they eventually survived their way through. And later on, KOF 2002 Ultimate Match came out, or an Unlimited Match came out in 2009. Geez, so quite a bit later. And 2002 included a new, technically non-canon character called Nameless. And so in his lore, he is the 9,999th K-Dash clone. K-Dash is like a clone of Kyo, who's the main. There's so many fucking clones. Anyway, so that's a pretty obvious reference. He's the 9,999th clone, and he is like he sort of retains a few similar things to K49. Like he's got the same kind of like shapeshifty stuff, but his powers are kind of like he uses like fire and ice, but the ice is acts a lot more like metal or like steel, and it like shapeshifts and stuff like that. He's basically took a lot of K49's shapeshifting stuff and just made it like vaguely ice themed, and then got a bunch of fire moves. So so then all of a sudden this trailer drops, and there's a guy, and so K49, if you look him up, he's a guy with blue hair and a yellow shirt, like a yellow sleeveless shirt. And then Cronin shows up, and he's a guy with blue hair and a yellow jacket, and he has a torn up like red scarf, just like Tetsuo from Akira. And my first thought is, holy shit, did they bring back K49? What? I thought this character was just gone. And then they say, no, his name is Cronin. So another K name. And also Cronin's a nice reference to like David Cronenberg, so like who did a lot of body horror stuff, which is very on brand for K49. And they kind of replace, instead of having the flesh arm, it's more like it's more like metal shape shifting. So I think the implication is more that like my theory and how they're probably gonna be intentionally vague about it, because he's like wearing goggles and all this stuff to like hide a bit of his face. I think that they're probably going to keep it like intentionally vague, where to kind of just hint at the idea that like Cronin is K49, but kind of like a new, like he's had some time to like refine his powers, and he's taken on a new name. He doesn't just have like the code name. He's that like references his like the fact that he's a clone. He's like taken on a new, like a real name that has it keeps that K from it. Pardon me. Also, apparently, Cronin's Japanese... I'm just reading his wiki page. Cronin's Japanese katakana spelling is a play off of the word clone, with the difference of only one character place in it. Kuronen and Kuron. Okay. Okay, so visually, if you look at the Japanese, it actually looks pretty close. So that got me like really interested, and he looks cool. He also has like the basically someone made a comparison video. He's got like the exact same moveset, or it's really similar. Like he's doing the same motions, same movements, all that. He has the same super where he like shoots his arm out and it transforms into this big like mass, except instead of being a weird flesh horrifying thing, it's like a big like metal Dr. Octopus style tentacle. So that was neat. What else from Game Awards? Oh yeah, so Jeff Keighley gets up at the start and he goes, we will not tolerate harassment in our industry. And if you experience or see harassment, then speak up and call this number or this email or whatever the fuck. We need to work together to weed out harassment in our community, in our industry. And anyway, here's a brand new Quantic Dream game. That fucking trailer was the best joke of the night. When you see this incredibly rendered trailer for a Star Wars game, you're like, holy shit, what is this? Dude, what is that? You're like getting hyped. You're like, oh man, this imagery, this soundtrack with like the drums, it's gorgeous. It's so cool. The atmosphere, the lighting. I love this. What is this? And then you see the logo and it's a Star Wars Eclipse. And you're like, whoa, what's this gonna be? Quantic Dream. You're like, oh. It like took the air out of my lungs. I think on the stream you can literally see my eyes pop out of my skull. I couldn't even say anything. It was so funny and kind of sad at the same time. Quantic Dream, if you don't know, was they've got their own sexual harassment and just generally being toxic kind of problems in their own workspace for years. And then Keighley made a big fucking show about not having Activision Blizzard featured at the Game Awards because of what's going on. But hey, I'm happy to show a Quantic Dream game. You know, I maybe it's harsh, but Keighley, is it mean-spirited? Is it too much to call him like a mealy-mouthed industry shill? I'll call him that. I think he is. What else? Space Marine 2! Warhammer Space Marine 2, the game that literally only I was excited about. So here's the thing. I really like Warhammer. The problem is, I think I've talked about this on a previous episode, but the problem with Warhammer is that the lore is so cool. But the main game, like the tabletop game, does not... It's not as like a storytelling medium. Like, there's a Ludo narrative, but it's not like... There aren't really, like, characters. Like, there are, but, you know what I mean. It's like, I want something that's, like, narrative. I want something narrative in this world. So I went out and I have a huge fucking Warhammer book. The Founding by Dan Abnett, great book in the Gaunt's Ghosts series. And so it's like, okay, so what about video games? What do they have to offer? And 99% of Warhammer games are strategy games and like RTSs. It's like, okay, that's nice, that's cool, but like, can we have something else? Like, there's so much cool stuff in this universe. There's so much potential. And when everything's just like a strategy game, it gets kind of boring. And there's this game, it's called Space Marine, and it's a really solid, really cool, like, third-person shooter following like a squad of ultramarines. And it's really cool. And it's a huge breath of fresh air. But there was this, like, it came out, when did that game come out? Warhammer Space Marine 1. 2011, Jesus Christ, it's been 10 years. So people were just kind of resigned to the fact that there's probably never going to be a sequel. Okay, we'll just, take the original. And then bam, out of nowhere, Space Marine 2. Holy shit, I was so excited. The trailer was great. It showed a little bit of gameplay. I'm okay with it. I just thought it was cool to see, like, as soon as I saw it, like, I saw it opens with, like, a shot of, like, the ship flying overhead into the city where this battle's taking place. And you can see the Space Marine, like, core, or the Space Marine emblem on the ship, and I immediately recognized it. I was like, sorry? Hang on. What? Because there was DLC for Vermintide, Warhammer Vermintide, and that's Warhammer Fantasy, it's not 40k. And I remember, like, earlier on I'd been like, when I was watching that, I was like, okay, can we just get, like, a Space Marine 2? And then this trailer shows up, and I'm like, no way. No way. No way. And I'm literally waiting the entire time until the title drop when it says fucking Space Marine 2, and I jumped out of my seat. I was so hyped. It's gonna be fucking Space Marines versus the Tyranids, which, if you don't know, are basically what the Zerg ripped off in StarCraft. They're big bug guys. And I'm just hyped. I'm excited. I'm legitimately really hyped for it. There was, like, nothing. So the problem I had with the Game Awards is that, like, because it's a big event. So as I was watching it, all the trailers were just blurring together. Just absolutely blurring together. Everything felt like it was a third-person shooty bang game with like you could make a bingo card off of these, like, third person shooter. The character at a certain point, like, it starts to get so visually exhausting because everything literally looks the same. Because so many of these games it's a third-person shooter where the player character takes up, like, the leftmost quarter of the screen, and it has a minimalist UI, and there's flashy particle effects, and it's a photorealistic art style, but it's like sci-fi things or fantasy things. It's like a realistically rendered sci-fi monster. Look at how unique this art style is. Look at how cool that is. It's like I've seen so many quote unquote unique, crazy monster designs over the years that none of them just, it doesn't, I don't know, you'd have to make something really crazy, really interesting to actually, like, stand out, I think. And, like, okay, like, why is that? Because It's the style of the time, but mainly this is a big event, right? And it draws in, if it's a big event, there's going to be companies pushing what they want to be big games. They're pushing big projects. So if you invest a lot of money into something, you've got to make a lot of money back, which means that you have to make it mainstream. And what appeals to a lot of mainstream people? Third-person shooter photorealism, but with fantastical elements. That is the current trend. It used to be gray military shooters. Now it's still photorealistic. I don't know what you'd call it. It's fantastical shooters, third-person shooters. You know, that's the deal. And they all just look the same. They all just look the same, and it's so tiring. Like, there was Chorus, I think, with a V. It was Forspoken. I remember that one. What else? There's just so many that just felt like the exact same thing. I can't even remember it. I've seen, you would think that the gaming industry is subsidized by the NRA or something, with how many just like guns that we have. Like, here's the thing, I don't mind games having guns or shooting in them. Some of my favorite games are shooty games, right? I love Doom. I love Blood. I just praised Space Marine, which is a third person behind the back space shooty game. Space Marine stands out in its own category because it's different. It's unique for a Warhammer game. So in my book, at least, it gets by. But in general, it's like, how was I talking about? What the fuck was I talking about? Right. There's not a problem with having like gun games, but like, man, there's a lot of. Can we at some point? I'm just like, can we just like have a game where we're not shooting stuff for once? Just like one game where we're not shooting things, where we're not having the exact same behind the back or over the shoulder camera angle, and then you zoom in, or it's a little zoomed out, and then you hold a trigger to aim, and it zooms into that like Gears of War-y angle, and like, can we just do something else for just a little bit, please? Just something. It's just a lot. The number one word I would use to describe the entire show would be exhausting. Something occurred. Oh yeah, fucking Telltale's back. I don't know when that happened. They had 2 games shown off, and there's both still licensed games, and I was like, here we go again. I don't know what the deal with that was, but here we go again. We're gonna it looks like they got on a new engine, so there's that. They're gonna milk that for the next 10 years again. It wasn't like 10 years. Let's see, when did Walking Dead 1 come out? Like, how long were they using that engine? Maybe it literally was like 10 years. I don't remember when they started using it. Walking Dead was like 2013, 2014, I want to say. They went bankrupt in like 2018? 19? Something like that. It's like 5 years at least. So I can't wait for them to milk the same engine for way too long and overextend themselves with too many licensed projects, just accepting every single deal they can. So, yeah, do I really want to talk about Game Awards anymore? I think if you watched it, you knew how few awards there were. It was so strange. So my theory was that they would do this weird thing where someone would win, and then the little voice would come on the stream and be like, "This game also wins in this other category," and you were like, "Did they already present that? Am I forgetting? Did they already present that category?" No, they never presented it. So what I think happened, my little theory, is that they knew who the winners were beforehand, of course, and they looked at which games or, whoever, which nominees won multiple categories, and then they just picked, like, okay, let's only do, like, one, so that they, for most of them, because we need to cut categories for time to show more trailers of a game that looks like 5 other games that were there. So what we'll do is we'll cut some corners and just add in like a little footnote. Oh yeah, they also won in this category. So like the one I remember was like the Forza 5. They won in both like best sports and innovation and accessibility. And so they present the Innovation in Accessibility Award because that looks good. That looks good to show that award. And it is nice, right? Don't make it seem like I'm discounting that. Because I'm not. Accessibility is very important in games. Very pro, that stuff. Options for people. Just to make it easier for them to play games. That's great. I'm just saying I think the thought process was, oh, it looks good to have the Accessibility Award. So let's skip over the best sports game because people don't really care that much about sports. And they did that for a lot of awards. And if it wasn't that, all these categories we could just get kind of like hand waved away. Like the one award I was waiting for was Best Fighting. Because of course, right? The one award. Because I was like, fucking don't let Demon Slayer win Best Fighting Game. Just give it to Guilty Gear. It's the best one. It's the best fighting game of the year. Come on, give it to Strive. And Strive did win, but the announcement was Jeff Keighley got on stage and he just read off like 5 categories in a row. It was so weird. Like, could you not get them in the building? You couldn't even get them on a Zoom call? You couldn't get fucking Daisuke Ishiwatari to accept an award for his, like, baby? Guilty Gear is his baby. It's like his, literally the embodiment of him as a person in a video game. And you're telling me that he wouldn't want to accept an award? Maybe he did. Or maybe he didn't, Maybe he was busy, but not even someone from, like, Arxis US, right? Like, just somebody. Come on, Jesus. Also, Strive didn't get nominated for Best Soundtrack, which is weird. I love Strive's soundtrack. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but it didn't even get nominated, which is really strange. Like, one of the big memes of Guilty Gear is that it's an album that comes with a bonus fighting game. Because every single, especially like if you listen to Strive's soundtrack is literally just like a 16, 17 track album with like lyrics and everything. And it didn't get nominated. It's super odd, but okay. But the Guardians of the Galaxy game did. Huh. Okay. Yeah, just very, like, pretty transparent in that this was just a corporate event to show off marketing. It's a marketing event. The awards part is just a facade. It's just a nice little sham. to make it seem like it's more prestigious than it really is. Dream won Best Influencer. That was so fucking funny. That was so funny. You're telling me Dream wouldn't have shown up to accept that? Even on like a Zoom thing? Seriously? You got Jim Carrey to show up for a Zoom on like a pre-recorded thing? What the hell? Yeah. What a silly, silly event. And then I got copyright claimed for, well, a bunch of stuff, but the big one, so you can get copyright claimed for a lot of stuff, but most of the time it'll just be like, oh, you can't monetize it, which I don't monetize my channel in the first place. Come January, I'll have some more details about that. But, I don't, there was one in particular, like at the very end, when they revealed that Matrix game, or that Matrix, it was like a short little experience. I think, was it VR or something? They played a scene from the new Matrix movie that was literally a minute long, and I got claimed for that, which I was expecting. But the claim made the video blocked worldwide, and I was like, oh, god damn it. So I had to fucking like spend some time just looking at like, okay, how... Okay, so like what's restricted? Oh, it's worldwide. Okay, and then YouTube has some built-in tools to like cut parts of the video out. So there's about a minute missing from that stream. It's just me talking about whatever. I think I was talking about, it's funny that it's like, it seems kind of arbitrary that all the Matrix sequels have like R names. It was like Revolutions. What's the other Matrix called? Matrix Resurrected. Or is that the new one? I don't know. They all have R names. Reloaded. Isn't that one of them? Whatever. I'm done talking about the GAs. I want to talk a little bit about BlazBlue. Central Fiction. So, the tournament CEO happened. The fighting game tournament CEO happened like last weekend. And it was a cool tournament. Naturally, Strive was one of the main games there. And at the very end, they did this announcement. They actually had a two-part announcement. One was BlazBlue Central Fiction and Cross Tag Battle are getting rollback updates. Oh shit. They really did it. They really did it. I was shocked. I was pleasantly surprised. And it's the same thing that they did with Plus R. So what happened with Plus R was Plus R it launched with delay-based netcode, really shitty delay-based netcode. And it was just kind of languishing on Steam for a while, and all platforms really like that. And then there was a team called Team French Caliburst, and they were making a mod. They were making a rollback mod for Plus R. And ArcSys approached them and they said, hey, we see what you're doing. Would you mind doing that officially? They were like, oh, really? And they were like, yeah, can you implement your rollback mod into just being like an official update for the Steam version of the game? And they were like, yeah, sure. So they basically got contracted out by ArcSys to implement rollback into Plus R. And they have done a fantastic job. And it basically led to the small-time revitalization of the game. Obviously, interest died down after a while. That happens to every game, but the great thing about rollback is that it basically lets a game live forever, because anyone can play anyone, because it makes connections so much easier, because you can just have totally lagless, delayless games between you and someone who could potentially be like across the world. Like you can have a playable experience up to like 250 ping, which is ridiculous. Like server-based games can't do that. But rollback can. So they announced. So there was like this lobbying, like there's a hashtag BBCF rollback, and finally they did it. And they literally just did the same thing. They approached a group of fans who were making a rollback mod for CF, and they just asked them to implement it officially. Super cool, super forward thinking on the part, especially for like a Japanese company who are usually very conservative in taking a risk like that. I mean, this is something that we haven't even really seen Western developers or publishers do. Like officially implement a mod into our game. Like that's pretty out there. But they did it, and they have only gained appreciation, well deserved, I think, and sales, right? Sales of their game. So CF got rollback. I haven't had time to really dig into it until like yesterday. So I played about 5 hours of it. I bought it back when it was on sale for like $5, and I messed around with it a bit. I thought it was neat, but I didn't dig into it because it had bad netcode, and I didn't feel like playing it online. I have played it online. The rollback, at least for me in my limited experience, I've only played a handful of games, maybe a dozen, because people just don't want to fucking rematch. The netcode's really good, very smooth. It plays really well online now, which is great. The game itself, I have some mixed thoughts on. Like, I've always been more of a Guilty Gear guy than a BlazBlue guy, in a lot of ways. The main thing is it feels different, and it's hard. I feel like I have to play more of it to describe how CF feels different from Guilty Gear, but it does, and I don't exactly know how quite yet. So pardon me for the unfinished thoughts, but it does feel a little different. And that might also just be like unfamiliarity with characters and all that. I've been really looking for a character to enjoy. I kind of immediately gravitated toward Azrael, because he is in many ways an homage. He has a lot of like Slayer elements to him. He's got a teleport dash. He stands tall. He's a big damage brawler, and he's like canonically overpowered. And I was just having some trouble with him, so I was kind of going through the cast and having that thing of like, well, I don't really like this character. I don't really like them. I don't really like them. And I kind of ran into this interesting problem of, what if I like a character, but I really don't like their design? And this is a very BlazBlue problem, because I am not a big fan of BlazBlue's character designs. That's right. I'm going to shit on BlazBlue. All you BlazBlue fans, watch out. I'm coming for your game. Not really. Kind of. I might get really harsh. I might get mean. And again, this is like all subjective, and this is my opinion. I can see how someone would like BlazBlue's kind of art style, but to me, it's too anime. That's not a good descriptor. It's not anime. It's animu. It's the idea of anime. You look at BlazBlue character designs and you're like, this is like the idea of anime. It's like the main character is an edgy guy with white hair and a big sword, and he has heterochromatic eyes. And his rival is a blonde Bishi boy with ice powers, swords. There's like robots and cat girls and mechas and just edgy people all over, and magical girls and schoolgirls and shotas and fucking what else? Big titty waifu characters who are just titillating for the sake of it. It's the idea of anime. And to some people that works, and for me it's extremely hit or miss depending on exactly what it's going over. And I want to talk about the designs because I've been thinking about this a lot. I have to pull it back up. I want to look through the roster again. Dust loop. Central Fiction. So I just want to run through some of the designs. I want to start off with the ones I don't like. Naoto is fucking awful. Naoto sucks. When I look at Naoto, I feel absolutely nothing. He is beyond... I look at him and I don't even know what to think. He inspires absolutely nothing. Sorry to all you Naoto fans. But just, he's a guy, like, what is he even? He's got a shirt and pants. He's Shiki. He's Shiki from Melty Blood. But Shiki at least has the excuse of the thing that he's from is intentionally, he's supposed to look plain and normal. And that's the idea of, like, Melty Blood and really just Tsukihime in general and Type Moon in general. The human characters are supposed to look very normal. Naoto has this thing going on where he's got these crazy fantasy clothes. Like, he's got this black shirt with these, like, this, like, shoulder gauntlet or shoulder thing armor, and, like, a cross necklace, and these belts and straps. Like, he's so overdone. But at the same time, there's absolutely, like, nothing to his actual design. There's just nothing there. He's like the epitome of all those incredibly generic school uniform designs in like, a lot of, like, 2000s anime. Or, like, there was this period in anime where high school stuff started... I don't know, I wouldn't say it was blowing up, but every single, like, series had to basically reinvent the wheel on the high school uniform, and it always just looks awful. Not always, but a lot of the time it just ends up looking like you were trying to be different, but you ended up looking boring. Who else don't I like? I think Mai looks horrible. This might be a good bit to, like, have Google Image open. Just to look at what I'm talking about. I think Mai looks really bad. She's another character where I don't understand, like, she has a spear and that's it. The whole side of her outfit is just open for some reason. Her color palette's fine. I will say that, like, color palette wise, all the BlazBlue characters are really nice. They all have really nice color schemes. But the actual, like, details of their design are it's just stuff. It's just details that tell you nothing about the character. Mai is, like, a good example of a problem that a lot of the female character designs have in BlazBlue, where it's just kind of titillating for the sake of it. And it's also, like, not titillating in an interesting way or in a way that's very relevant to the character. It's like, I call it brute force sex appeal. It's just like, how do we make this character sexy? Oh, let's give her big tits and or big thighs and or big ass and expose a lot of skin. And we'll just leave it at that. That's all you need, baby. There's just like, there's nothing to it. There's nothing going on. She's just a sexy anime waifu. And I don't know like anything about, I can't tell anything about her personality or even like how she fights besides the fact that she has a spear. Who else in the game do I think has that problem? Oh, which Mew is it? Lambda 11? No, not Lambda. Oh, Mew 12. What the fuck is going on with her? Just tons of exposed skin for some reason. Why? Like, okay, here's the thing. I don't think it's bad for a character to be sexy or to have sex appeal. I think it's lazy to just expose skin and give them big features, big assets, and just kind of call it a day. So if you look at another character, like, okay, let's take a look at Guilty Gear, and this might get exhausting. But let's look at a character like Ino, right? Like, Ino's whole deal, like, she's a very sexy character. But her whole deal is that she's basically like the embodiment of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. She embodies those all. She's got a guitar. She has crazy multicolored eyes that like change color depending on what angle you're looking at, which apparently is actually a reference to the way that like CDs look. Like when you, the bottom part of a CD, the way that light reflects off of it. And she's wearing like a jacket, at least, you know, in her older design, she's wearing like a jacket that just barely covers her nipples, you know? And she's also a witch for some reason. I don't know what that part is. But like, that's why she's sexy. That's her character. She's a sexual woman. And she's also, it has like some plot significance because as you kind of learn in Strive is that she's kind of like basically the embodiment of humanity's desire. Very weird Guilty Gear stuff, but okay, this sexy character is who has a very like sexual personality and mannerisms is the embodiment of human desire. Okay, that kind of makes sense. I can see that. Whereas like, why does Mew 12 just have a totally exposed midriff? Why does Makoto just wear that? Why is she so like, are all the female characters just naked for like no reason? For just like no, it's just a lot. So it's like, take a character like Bullet. Now Bullet is a character design I really want to like. I really want to like her design because she has a lot of things that appeal specifically to me. However, I feel like if she was a little toned down, she would be like better. And when I say toned down, I don't mean like entirely covered up. I just mean like maybe if her shorts were just like a little less short and her chest was just a little less big, just a little, right? And maybe if her pose wasn't so weird and like ridiculous. I'm not a big fan of her pose. I think it's very awkward. But like, I really want to be into her design. It's just, it feels like too much. Like a little restraint would be nice. I think Lychee? I think Lychee has a good design. I think that the fact that she has a obviously she's just very sexualized, but it at least matches her style. The fact that she's like a very acrobatic, free-flowing fighter. She's very like dance-like. The fact that she has this kind of like very flowing robes makes sense. Like visually it matches. Like it feels fine. The cleavage is a little like ridiculous, but it's okay. You take what you can get. Um, who else? I feel like I had some. Right. Or I want to save that for later for the designs that I like. Actually, no. I'll go with it right now. Taukaka. I really like Taukaka's design. I think she's great. I think she's actually a really well done, titillating character design. Like, she's this weird cat person, and she has this like hoodie skirt that's really short. It basically looks like she's just wearing like a really long hoodie with no pants, and that kind of works for her because she has this like weird face that's just like a big Cheshire cat type of grin and these glowing red eyes, and everything else is just shadow. And she has this very bouncy kind of, she just jumps around. She's always hopping around, kind of like movement, and she's very like frantic and always moving around. And the fact that it looks like she's not even wearing pants in a weird way kind of like enhances that. I think that it actually like really works for her character, that she's just like barely dressed. Almost like she's like feral or something like that. It really sells the idea that she's this zany kind of like very cartoonish crazy cat fighter girl. A few other designs. That's my main thesis on like the female designs. Platinum is one that you either love or hate. I don't like how big her boots are. I think she's fine. I'm kind of indifferent. I don't like how big her boots and hair are. Yeah, her hair is way too fucking big. Who else? S is like another one that I just wish she was more interesting looking. My problem with a lot of the BlazBlue designs is that they just don't have like a thing, or they have like almost a thing. S has like a big sword, and other than that, she's wearing like a dress. And it's like, the sword is cool, I just wish they could have leaned more into it somehow with the rest of her design. Otherwise, she just kind of becomes like a small girl with a big sword type character. Who else? I'm trying to think. Let me just some other ones that I'm not a big fan of. Celica, I think, is terrible. I think she sucks, her design. I understand that the idea of her is that like she's like a pacifist and she doesn't like fighting. And that like her robot does most of the fighting for her. But like, she's in a blouse and a short skirt, and she has a cape. And that's it. And there's nothing going on. It's so, like, boring? That's one of the things that frustrates me about BlazBlue, is like what I mentioned with Naoto. Celica is like just the female version of Naoto, where it's like, they've got this crazy fantasy garb, but it's also the most boring concept ever. There's just nothing happening, and it's hard to like say. I'm repeating myself, but that's just like there's so many designs that are like that. Tsubaki is fine. She's like military, I guess. She has like wings and eyeballs. It's okay. I think Susano is really good. I think that he has a really nice, simple color palette, the black and the green. He really looks like a magical, like, demonic world-ending beast. He has this very, like, he's, like, vaguely, you can't even really tell, is he wearing clothes? Is it, like, metallic? Is it something in between? He's very, like, he looks like something otherworldly and monstrous and violent. He has these, like, heads on his shoulders this big like mane of hair. It's kind of lion-like. There's these big sharp claws, and he's very like jagged and wolf-like. He's really cool. I think Susanoo really fits well. I think Izanami is neat. I think that the whole deal with her having like a big ring that she controls that kind of floats behind her is cool. And it kind of gives her, especially with her like her expression, she's always kind of disinterested. It sells. I think the ring actually helps this idea of like divinity or something, because she's like death, right? Hades Izanami. She's literally just death incarnate. And the ring is very like, it kind of reminds me of halos, or how in biblical like artwork, holy figures will have like the circle of light around their heads to like show that they're holy. I think it works for her. She does look like a goddess. I don't know if a goddess of death, but like a divine being who is also very disinterested. 9 is okay. She still has that like, she's just kind of showing a bunch of skin for some reason. She's a witch. She's got a big hat and a big cape. The cape is fine. In motion she looks cool because of like these flowing elements of her design. Pardon me. I like Hazuma and Terumi. I really like Terumi. I think his like big like coat hood cape thing with the yellow and black, and then like the green like snake energy attacks. I think he's really cool. He looks mysterious and strong, and that fits his character. And then Hazuma is, I mean, I'm just an edgelord, so I like Hazuma. I like his whole, he's very dapper. I generally like well-dressed characters in fighting games. It's something that it appeals to me. His whole like the butterfly knife and the like fedora hat, and he looks like he's a 1930s gangster. I think he looks cool. I think he genuinely like looks cool as like an edgy character. I really like Rachel just because I'm a big fan of gothic Lolita. Some people aren't into it, but just subjectively, I love the fact that she has this like umbrella and this little like demon bat guy who follows around her, and in all of her animations, when she gets hit, she doesn't actually get hit. If you look at her sprites, it's actually her umbrella and her little familiar are the ones who are taking the hits for her. That's really funny. Yeah, she's just like a hoity vampire gothic Lolita girl, and that's just something I personally really like dig. I really like that type of like style and fashion. Relius, I think, looks cool. He looks like an aristocrat. Relius to me is like a good example of like, he has a concept. He has a concept and he delivers on it. He is an aristocratic, like, spooky, evil guy. And he's like purple, and he has a cape, and he has a mask over his eyes, and it's like a masquerade style mask. And he sells the part. He's kind of like hiding things. He looks devious. You can't see his eyes. Like the fact that you can't see his eyes and they're just kind of like white behind the mask is like, oh, he's like, in just character design language, he's like shifty and secretive. And the fact that he commands this robot that is kind of like his servant or maid or whatever, and he uses her as his like in his attacks, and the robot has this very like demure posture while he's holding his like hands up like I think he's great, and his design alone makes me like interested in trying him out. I haven't really tried him out yet. Hakumen looks cool. He's like a robot samurai with a big long sword. He's like simple, but he's cool. Who else? I like Kokonoe. I think she's neat. She's like a scientist cat girl. I guess she has an exposed midriff for like no reason. I don't know why. Like, okay. She has an exposed midriff and she's wearing like a thong. Actually, do I like this design? I don't know if I do. It's just like kind of corny. I don't know. It's kind of tacky. Valkenheim's sick. He's a old butler gentleman guy. Again, he's like well dressed. I just like well dressed characters. Maybe that's my thing. He turns into a wolf. He's like a werewolf guy. He's cool. I don't know. I think this kind of design is cool. He fits his part. He takes the idea of being like he's a battle butler, and he's like a gentleman. He reminds me of Slayer in that way. And then you find out, oh, he's Rachel's butler, and you're like, okay, that's cool. I really like that. They're both kind of like Halloween-y themed. He turns into she's a vampire, and he's a werewolf. That's cool. Arakune, I like. He reminds me of the shadow guy from Berserk. I forget his name. But just, Arakune is just like a shadowy blob with these weird, like, arms, and he, like, shape-shifts, and he has these, like insect imagery in a lot of his attacks. And he just throws goop around, and he's very creepy and weird, and he's good. He's a very, very cool design. Ragna and Jin are extremely default. So here's the thing that's interesting. So if you don't know, BlazBlue was kind of the, like, spiritual successor to Guilty Gear. And the reason for that is because there was a point in time where Arxis did not own the rights to Guilty Gear. They basically had to, like, sell it to Sega, and they were like, oh, we might never be able to make another Guilty Gear game, so let's make basically a spiritual successor. It's going to be different, but it's going to be in the same, it's what a spiritual successor is. And so a lot of the original base characters in BlazBlue, like the early characters, are very similar, or are clear homages to Guilty Gear characters. Like, I remember the first time I looked at Tager, and I was like, that's just Potemkin. That's just, like, not Potemkin, right? Quote unquote, not Potemkin. And you look like Jin and Ragna, and it's like, Ragna, main character, red, gruff bounty hunter. Jin, rival to the main character. Blue, blonde, no ice powers, but, Jin, yeah, Jin's also, like, he's very, like, hoity-toity, kind of, like, pretty boy, to contrast Ragna's tough guy, and Jin is, like, the leader of he belongs to, like, an order of like the military, and it's literally just Soul and Kai. Soul's a bounty hunter, gruff, tough, big muscle guy, and Kai is a pretty anime boy who's a holy knight. The difference is that Ragna doesn't use fire, he uses, like, blood construct magic stuff, and then Jin doesn't use lightning, he uses, like, ice. It's like the one difference. Like, when I look at them, I just think, I'm like, this is Soul and Kai. Who else is kind of worth talking about on the roster? Kagura's okay. I like that he has a big, strangely shaped sword. It's like a big square. That's kind of it. I don't get that much out of his design. Is there anyone I haven't talked about? Oh, Hibiki. Hibiki's boring as fuck. His swords are cool, and his theme is really good. I use it a lot, but you wouldn't even really know that he like uses shadows in his attacks. Like his whole like shadow and like crow thing is neat, but yeah, I don't know. He's very like, there's just not a lot going on in his design. He's wearing clothes. That's like about it. Oh fuck, I forgot Izayoi. God, she fucking sucks. This design is so generic, I forget about her. Like, I look away and I forget about her. I would never want to play this character. She is so boring looking. I really like Amane. Amane is an example of, like, a character who... They have, like, an idea. They have, like, a theme. If you look at, like, Gear, you look at, like... Venom, right? And it's like, he's got a pool cue. Oh, shit. He's all based around these... making these pool balls and bouncing them all across the screen and using his cue. And you look at like every character has like a really strong thing going on. And my problem with the BlazBlue designs is that they just don't really have much going on. Amane is cool because I think that like he takes this design of he's like a androgynous ribbon dancer, and it really just runs with that concept. Like he turns the ribbons into drills, and he has this whole really neat mechanic where he like he has this he can like build up, he has like 3 levels of these attacks with his drills, and he can like charge them up, and he charges it up by like doing damage too. And then the higher the level, the more damage it does on block. So when he's at like level 3, which is the max, he can do like ridiculous damage on the enemy's block. Like he does more damage on block than on hit. Very interesting design. And he like really takes this idea and just runs with it. Of like the ribbon dancer. And he uses them in all of his attacks. And he's very like, he has a strong theme and character. He's like memorable. I think, at least. I think I ran through most of the roster. I think I ran through pretty much everyone. There's the 2, like, Lambda and... Who's the other one? New. They're just the same character. It's fine. It's like a robot. I wonder if that... Oh, boy, is that sound picking up? Someone's alarm is going off in the background. And it's really fucking loud. It's like a robot with, like, skin-tight suit. It's fine. It's okay. Oh, Noelle. Noelle's cool. I like that she has 2 really big guns. I like her more with a beret. I like her design with the beret more than just letting her hair down, but that's just me. I don't know. The guns feel like a strong design element to me. It just sticks out to me. Jubei's neat. He's like a cat. That's interesting. He's a cat with 2 swords. He's like a samurai cat. That's strong. Like, at least I feel something from him. Yeah. Oh yeah, Clover. I think that's the only one that I haven't talked about. Yeah. Man, I really want to... Carl is fine. Carl Clover. He's a little boy with a top hat, and he's like steampunky, and he commands a robot. He's perfectly fine. We have like a 6 out of 10. That's the entire Blaze. Oh, Bong! Bong Shishigami. Bong's great. Bong is a really cool, unique design. He's a ninja, but he uses nails. He has just like his whole... his whole like midsection is just exposed. Like all of his fucking abs and pecs. Okay. Alright then. He has this gigantic nail on his back. And all of his attacks use nails and like nail setups that he's like a ninja. I think it's super cool. Yes. That is everyone. I'm not forgetting Izayoi this time. I briefly mentioned Makoto. She's, yeah, it's just, why is she... I feel like I wish she was just wearing shorts instead of like a really tiny... Her miniskirt is like an inch long. It's ridiculous. Like, it looks dumb. I think it looks dumb. I don't hate sexy character designs. I just like them to be like good. I like good sexy character designs. For the record, I don't think Dizzy's an amazing design. I think Dizzy gets by on the fact that she's an incredible amount of personality, and I'm not saying that as a joke. Like, the fact that she literally has an angel and a devil on her shoulder and they interact for her moves is one of the most visually, like, interesting, cool things. It's always just fun. Like, I can't wait till she's in Strive, because it's just fun to, like, look at her animations and, like, see how the Undyne and Necro interact with each other. I should also talk about Azrael. Azrael is cool. I like that you can tell that he's really strong. He gives off the impression that he's extremely showy. He always has this kind of like grin on his face, and I like that he's wearing a jacket over his shoulders and not like with the sleeves in, because it's flashier, because it flaps in the wind more, and he probably thinks it looks cool, and it does look cool. I think so. I don't get why he has this weird stupid bag over one of his pant legs. I think that's kind of dumb, but I guess it's for like visual clarity, but I think it's a little silly. Yeah, that's my thoughts on the entire BlazBlue roster of character designs. Overall, I just think that, like, the biggest problem is, like, style. I'm just really not down with the style, like the fashion in BlazBlue, for the most part. There's just so many characters who are wearing such, like, generic fantasy anime outfits. It's just so boring. Again, like, Naoto just sucks. What a terrible design. Apparently he's from a novel, which makes sense, because, like, you're not supposed to look at him. Other than that, gameplay-wise, I'm still trying to kind of find a character. I've been gravitating toward Azrael, and I've been kind of enjoying him, but the difficult thing is that for some reason player lobbies so there's, like, player lobbies or player rooms, but those are different from the lobbies. The lobbies have, like, rematches, and that's where you can, like, take your little avatar and walk up to an arcade cabinet with someone else and literally play on the cabinet. The lobbies are just like, oh, you just kind of, like, enter a pool of matchmaking within the lobby, and then you match, and it feels like it takes forever, and only one match can be happening at a time, which is really lame and boring and slow, because for some reason the regular lobbies are disabled. You can only do player rooms, and that kind of sucks. But and there's no instant rematch. It's just one and dones, so it gets really tiring to, like, have to go back to the room and wait for the rematch. And yeah, I'll be looking forward to when the lobbies get officially patched back in. The online, again, works great, and for some people, like, they're gonna really enjoy BlazBlue's, like, systems and stuff. I still need to get, like, a feel for it and get used to it. But I'm still interested in, like, in playing a bit more of the game and trying it out, and maybe it's just not gonna be for me. That's fine. Man, I've been talking for a while. My voice is starting to get hoarse. So I think I'm going to call it a day here. Thank you for listening. It's been great. We really went on a journey, this podcast. If you've been listening this far, thank you for that engagement. Thanks, everyone, for the really nice reception to the recent videos and all that, and the last podcast episode. That's been really cool. If you have a question, leave it in the comments below, and I will definitely get to it next time. Although it has to be in the form of a question. So, yeah. Alright, later. Bye.